Alright, today I'll cover on the stakeholder in sustainable tourism, which is on chapter 3. Okay, the key actors, stakeholders in sustainable tourism comprise of the public sectors, the industry, volunteer sectors, host community, the media, and tourists. Okay, the public sectors is the body which are intended to represent the whole community and the public interest as supposed to act on behalf of the total population. It's a non-commercial organization, spend the revenue from taxation to implement policies and projects which benefit the whole population in the country. Now I will explain the role of public sectors in sustaining tourism industry. Okay, for the role part, the government are involved in the legislation and regulation, funding and fiscal incentives, land use planning, development and building control, EIA or environmental impact assessment, changing approach to land use planning, the provision of infrastructures, active player in tourism industry, official standards, and then the government also designated area for protection and development, and the government also controls on the tourist number of particular areas. Okay, then I talk about the obstacles to the rules of the public sector to sustainable. Okay, for the obstacles, number one is low priority, a lack of political will, lack of financial resources, lack of staff expertise, the cycle of election affect long-term decisions, and planning system are low and time consuming compared to the change of the tourism industry, a little control over tourism product, and the most major issue is corruption. Okay, then I move on the industry. Okay, the industry sectors of tourism have three major uh, importance, which is generating zone, transaction zone, and destination zone. Okay, generating zone is more on the tour operators and travel agency. Transaction zone is a transportation carriers, and then we have a destination zone, which is involve hospitality, entertainment, transport carriers, local owned hotel, and travel agent. It also include tourist guide. Okay, generating zone, tour operators will handle on the processing part. Transaction is more on the transaction in the mobility of people from place A to place B. Destination zone is the ground handling of particular areas. Then I move on the critique on tourism industry in respect of sustainable tourism. Too concerned with the short-term profit rather than long-term sustainability, exploitation of the environment, show minimum commitment to particular destination, and then we have a problem with the control by large transportation corporation, minimize effort in raising tourist awareness of sustainability, and we have only interest when there is a publicity and possibility of reducing costs. Lack of acceptable model that was sustainable tourism, need response action, lack of concern among tourists, and factors that beyond control. So we have a problem with the model, which is so many model on the sustainable tourism, which is quite confusing which ones to follow. And then we need a response from the competitors, and then a lack of concern, unwillingness to pay more on their holidays. When we talk about green or sustainable, they have to spend more and they have to concern about the environment. But with the during among the developing country having a problem to get the cooperation among these among tourists, lack of lack of interest among stakeholders, lack of in-house expertise, and we have a corporate attitude belief that sustainable is concerned on government, not the industry. Okay, then I move to the voluntary sectors. Voluntary sectors involve the public pressure group, voluntary trust, the professional bodies, and industry pressure group. So, for example, WCIM, MATA, or MA, and then we have a WTTC, and TC, World Travel and Tourism Council, consists of industry representatives supported by major tourism companies. MATA, we have a Hotel Catering Institution Management Association, and we have Association of Independent Tour Operators, as I mentioned earlier. Okay, now I move on the host community. The rationale of community involvement, keeping the concept of democracy, giving voice to those affected in tourism, make use of local knowledge and decisions are made well informed, and reduce conflict between tourists and local community. Then I go for level of influence. Okay, when we talk about the level of influence, community have total control of strategic policy. Community will have a veto for all tourism policy, and normally committee will given a priority in terms of parameter. Committee are permitted to select a policy strategy based on democracy election. Committee views are used to help justify decision taken by public sector's body, and they also is consult by its view do not significantly influenced by public sector's decision. Okay, why we use community involvement as a mechanism? Because to avoid manipulation, to informing, for consultation, we go for application, partnership, and delegation power between citizen control. So we try to avoid bias between politician and community. Okay, the negative side. Okay, I move to the negative side of community involvement. Add to the cost of tourism planning and development, of course, and then lessen the period needed to develop plans and projects. Allow the priority local community to discriminate against local ethnic minority group. Provide opportunity for locals, interest group to deny opportunity for leisure and employment to people from outside of the area. This is what happened in Langkawi, for example. A lot of the migration in the destination area, so it will create a negative impact in terms of community, in terms of social, in terms of environment, So it create an issue. Until now, if I'm not mistaken, the problem is still unsolved. Right, then we move to media. Next slide. Media. Okay, media definitely is the significant role in shaping tourist behavior and creating awareness on issues relating to sustainable tourism. And as we all know, especially social media has become a trend nowadays, and it also influence the people and also relevant to the sustainable tourism. For example, um, now most of the travel media using social media as to promote the destination. Okay, for example, uh, apa ni, packages and so forth. Kan? Last time before COVID, we use guidebooks, we use TV and radio program with tourism tips, specialized travel magazine. But now the most influence I can say is the social media. Then when we talk about non-travel media, it involves new program on TV, radio, special interest program, documentary, film, television series featuring identifiable location, and also for the customer program. For example, survival, those are the non-travel media. Okay, encourage tourists to go to destination. Social media, travel media, encourage tourists to go to the destination. Okay, features program based on tips experienced uh, by the tourists or journalists. And okay, now media travel report on negative issues of the country, reputation. It will create negative reputation on a particular destination. So we have a COVID-19. Of course, it's become an issue. Any negative issue about the virus will spread out fast. Spreading fastly, and it's uncontrollable. Plus with the fake news and so forth. Next, I go for media. Right, wait. Next, I go for media interest in a different aspect of sustainable tourism. High media interest. We have a low media interest. So most of the high media interest on the wildlife conservation on earth, landscape and so forth. But the low part is more on the awareness part, such as government responsibility, social impact of tourism, the right of the host, less been highlighted in the media because it involves a government. Some government control the kind of negative part because it will portray a negative image to the particular country. Then we have the right for employees, for example. Okay, the role of media, right? Balance information. They should have a balance between the industry, the tourists, and the right of the host population. So they cannot bias to one particular party only. Okay, play a major role in developing more suitable form due to the influence of tourist behavior by give tourists advice about problems in the destination, raise awareness of social problem, government policy in the destination area. So this is part of the role of the media. So you should come up with a positive instead of the negative. It will create a negative reputation on that particular destination area. Now then I move on to the tourists. Okay. Tourists, responsible of the tourists. I highlight on responsibility of the tourists. They are responsible for obeying local law and regulation, responsible for not taking part in activities which are illegal, drug, for example, not enforced by the authority, responsible for not offending local religious belief and culture, responsible for not harming the local physical environment, and they are also responsible to minimize the use of the scarce local resources and continue the right of the tourists to be safe, not to be discriminated, exploited, to have a fair marketing when you talk about the product, buying and selling process, have a safe, clean physical environment, free and unrestricted movement, provided it cause no damages, and etc. Point to consider creating an awareness among tourists to sustain the destination. This is the most important part when you talk about the tourist punya responsibility. Message about sustainable is not widely understood. Some of the tourists, they don't understood. It depends on the party. Some tourists depends on the country. If they know, for example, Malaysian, when they travel in Singapore, they are very concerned on the hygiene. Apa ni orang kata? Hygiene and apa ni health kan. When they go back to their own country, they back to their own attitude. That's another issue. And then we have balancing tourist satisfaction and sustainability. Again, the interest of often again the interest of sustainable tourism.